Don't call it a streak, but the Toronto Blue Jays have just won their second game in a row in their series opener against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple weeks, but this was a good stepping stone in the right direction. So we'll break it all down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and this game today resembled a little bit of the Blue Jays that we've come to know and love, minus the home run ball, of course, but they were firing on all cylinders in the first couple of innings, and it was great to see some offense finally creep back into that Blue Jays lineup. Now, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but this was a big win, considering that Yusei Kikuchi was on the mound, and he hasn't exactly been lighting it up in his past couple of starts before this one.
Yeah, and coming off of our big losing streak the past couple of weeks, we just need to take it one game at a time, get one win at a time, and creep back into the playoff picture a little bit and hopefully grab that last wildcard spot. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're like 4 subs away from 7,000, so if you're watching and you're not subscribed, make sure to hit the button, and maybe tomorrow our video will be thanking you guys for 7,000. But let's just get into the video, and the Jays offense explodes today, and like you said, Peter, it was more the small ball rather than the long ball. No home runs for the Jays, which is kind of unfortunate. We're still waiting for Vladdy's first home run at the Rogers Center this year, but what a game from Alejandro Kirk, who we'll touch on later. Kevin Biggio even got in on the action. What do you see today? Some unlikely stars, as well as the good guys or the bigger guys today got on the board there.
Yeah, Brandon Belt was also really good today, and I just saw some good at-bats, more patience out there in the box, and guys were getting on base, and they were making things happen. I think they were 5 for 10 with runners in scoring position at one point in the game. That number obviously crept down to the norm because they didn't score a run after the third inning, but they started off really well, and they were manufacturing runs, and it reminded me a lot of the first game of the regular season against the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, that's just the way. They didn't hit a home run until their third game of the season, I believe, and the Blue Jays just found a way to win today. Yusei Kikuchi didn't look great. He did what he had to do, and at the end of the day, he's your fifth starter. You got to give him the run support that he needs to go out there and be successful, and the Jays gave him a 5 spot after that rough first inning that he had, that home run that he gave up to William Contreras. And they came right back. They said, don't worry, man, we got you. And they spotted him 5 runs, and it was smooth sailing from there on out. And I love to see that because we haven't seen that fight. We haven't seen that pushback in the past couple of weeks from this Blue Jays team. And it was nice to see that. It was a great change of pace.
Yeah, and Kikuchi we'll touch on in a minute, but like you said, they put up 2 runs quick against Kikuchi, but the Blue Jays in the bottom half stepped up with 4 runs. We can go through it here now. Springer 1 for 4, and kind of the weird thing was Bo Bichette went hitless, so he did have an RBI, but the rest of the team stepped up. Vladdy got back on the board. Brandon Belt has quietly put together a very, very solid, I mean, we can say at this point now, season so far for the Blue Jays. Obviously, he's got a bit of a hot streak recently. Nathan Lucas, pinch hit there, almost hit a home run, but Whit Merrifield, Matt Chapman, and at the bottom of the order, Alejandro Kirk hitting in the 8-hole, and Kevin Biggio playing he played very, very well today. He got 2 hits, he got a walk, he got an RBI. If he starts to get going, he's gotten going quietly recently, maybe he could be a valuable piece. I know we've hated on him a lot, but he's playing fine right now, and we kind of need it at a time like this.
Yeah, they needed it in this game today. I wouldn't go as far as saying he's going to be a valuable piece going forward, but he also got absolutely hosed by the umpire later on in the game. And I know you saw that too, Nick. You were texting me about it. And just that low strike call that was called a strike, and then there was a makeup call. And then the umpire doubled down and gave that same low strike call. It was just ridiculous. I know we were fuming during the game, and man, you don't want to see that to anyone, especially for a guy like Kevin Biggio, who's been struggling, who's trying to get his name on that lineup card each and every day, and then he goes out there and he just gets absolutely hosed by the umpire. It didn't cost anything, but man, a guy's hitting sub 200, hitting below the Mendoza line. You want to give him a chance out there,
Yeah, and I'll let the umpire live for this game because I feel like I complain about him every other game. But someone I'm not going to complain about too much today was Yusei Kikuchi, who was solid. And I use that word very, very carefully. He didn't impress, really, but he did exactly what a number 5 starter can do and really should do. Struggled with his command once again, but he only gave up 3 hits and 2 runs. Obviously, 4 strikeouts and more walks and strikeouts for Yusei Kikuchi is usually not a good sign. But, I mean, Peter, that's all you can ask for out of your number 5 starter. It was a solid start against a team that struggles against lefties notoriously.
It wasn't a total disaster. I mean, anytime you get through 5 innings with Yusei Kikuchi and your team's relatively safe and sound like they were today, I mean, you'll take that every time. You never know what you're going to get out of him. He could either be the best starter on planet Earth, and sometimes he's spraying it all over the zone, and he's missing 3 feet to the left. So you really don't know what you're going to get out of him. But the one pitcher that I was really
Nate
impressed
Pearson.
with today, Nate Pearson, and I knew we were going to talk about this. Nate Pearson has finally found his role on this Blue Jay team. Now, it's not a defined role. It's not, hey, Nate, the seventh inning is yours. Hey, the eighth inning is yours. Hey, go in there and give me bulk relief. Give me 2 innings. He's very versatile over there. He's a failed starter. I think that ship has sailed, and he's now fully focused on being a reliever. He is dominant in that role. He struck out the side in his second inning of work. His slider was absolutely getting painted on the corners. His fastball touching 100, 101. I mean, what more can you ask out of the guy? He was so good today. He's been so dominant thus far in his stint with the Blue Jays, and barring any injury, I'm going to knock on wood right there. He is here to stay. And when Chad Green is ready to return to this team, when Hyun-Jin Ryu is ready to return, it's not going to be Nate Pearson getting sent down. It's going to be someone getting DFA'd or someone getting traded, because Pearson is going to be a valuable contributor to this team that is fighting for a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, sub 2 ERA. He's striking out everyone. You can use him in leverage like we did the other night, or you can use him today, cleaning up some bulk innings there. And the bullpen as well was just very solid today. Jimmy Garcia ended up having the clean inning, and the bullpen's quietly started to turn it around a little bit and gain some trust back. But I mean, I'd put Nate Pearson ahead of Jimmy Garcia on the leverage list right now. And just because, no offense to Jimmy Garcia, I'm sure he'll turn it around. But just out of, he has absolute gas and he's finally using it. And I would as well call him a failed starter. I don't know if failed is necessarily. I mean, I guess you could use that word, but he's been injured. I feel like injuries played a big role to that. But I don't think he's going to become a starter at any point throughout his Blue Jays tenure, at least. So at this point, him focusing on the relief is definitely what's best for him.
Right, and I've just been so impressed with the way he's gone about it. He's such a hard worker, and you could tell that he wants to be successful out there on that mound. He's very intense, and I wouldn't say a failed starter either, because
Converted.
you can't really, yeah, converted starter because of the injuries, and you touched on it. You said it perfectly, Nick. We can't hold it against him just because his body hasn't been able to hold up. He's a power arm. He's a big guy. Injuries are inevitable, but he seems to have really honed in on his craft, and he's really figured out his body right here. And this is the best I've ever seen Nate Pearson. And if he's ever going to develop into anything, this is the time. He's 26 years old.
Yeah, super exciting. And maybe he'll continue to develop into a high leverage reliever. Let us know your thoughts on him. And we'll quickly touch on Alejandro Kirk before we wrap up, because I think it deserves a minute of talking here. He's quietly got himself back on track, and that's someone we desperately needed to, because, throughout the month of May, Matt Chapman ended up being cold. Alejandro Kirk's been cold the whole season, and all of them starting to step up. Kirk again with another great game. Had a great game last time out. 3 for 4. Just phenomenal out of him, hitting the ball well, contact opposite way. What do you see out of him quickly before we wrap up?
Well, he needs to step up, plain and simple, just because Danny Jansen is hurt right
Yep.
now, and I don't think the Blue Jays have any confidence in Tyler Heineman playing every day and being in that lineup. So they got to get something out of Alejandro Kirk, and if it's ever going to happen, it's going to happen now. He's put together some really good at bats in the past couple of days. He had a 3-hit game the other day, another 3-hit game today, and the power's still not there. It's not where we want it to be, but his on base percentage is very much on par with what it was last season, and he's making things happen. He's putting the ball in play. He's not striking out. Very typical Alejandro Kirk type of season thus far, and minus the power, of course. And I do think the doubles are going to come. I do think the home runs are going to come as well, and they need to. They need to arrive, because Alejandro Kirk hitting singles is not, the most valuable player in the world, let's say, because you need a couple of more hits to drive him home, right? So I've been impressed with him, and he's got to step it up, and I do think this is something sustainable. And of course, I dropped him in fantasy a couple of days ago, and that's all he needed to wake up, right?
Yeah, maybe you should drop some other players you got on if you have Matt Chapman, and so he can get going. But it's a good point about Kirk. He has no speed, so he provides no value in the base pass. So if he's just hitting singles, then his value is very, very limited. He is fairly good at defense, but we'll leave that there, and we'll quickly look ahead to tomorrow's game. And Manoah takes the bump, and we really need him to have a good start. He's been, I'm not even going to say up and down. He's been pretty much down the entire season. A couple spot starts here and there, like early on, his second start of the season or 30 at 7 innings. But he's been rough. What do you want to see out of him tomorrow? And he just needs to do, really, if he does what Kikuchi did today, but maybe a little bit better, I'd be happy. He just needs to step it up, as we need to keep winning games. We're pretty far behind in the race.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go that far and say I'm expecting a Yusei Kikuchi type of stat line out of Alec Manoa. I do expect a lot better, and he has been much better throughout his entire career. So I'm expecting him to go out there and just work on his command. I want to see one thing improve with each and every outing. Tomorrow, I want to see the command be a little bit better and him be a bit more of a force and challenge those hitters, just like he's done ever since he's gone into the major leagues. And that's the main thing I want to see out of him. I do think he's going to turn it around. And quite frankly, Nick, he's got no choice because the Jays have no other options in the minor leagues right now that are going to step in and provide any sort of value. Like, I don't think the Jays want to send him down and have Drew Hutchison start every fifth day. I don't think they want to send him down and have Mitch White be in that rotation because those guys haven't been good either. There's no one in Buffalo with an ERA under 5 in that starting rotation. So he's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out quickly, and I do think he will.
Yeah, and hopefully he bounces back, and he needs to for the Blue Jays, like you said, especially as the number one starter, as he keeps going up against the other number one starters in the league. But that'll wrap up the video. Thank you again for the support. Hit the subscribe button. We're close to 7,000, and we'll see you tomorrow.